Susan, thank you so much for that. We did have a lot of questions come in, so thank you so much for that. Keep them coming. And let me just kick off with the first one. In recent years, we have seen several high-profile collaborations between pharmaceutical companies that have resulted in new breakthroughs. How can we continue to foster these collaborations, and what do they mean for the future of screening technology? Dave, can I give that one to you?
Yeah, thank you, Carolyn. I appreciate it. I think that one of the things that we hear from Harpal's comments, and I think Susan alludes to this as well, is that there is a silver lining to what we've learned through the pandemic. And one of the great lessons learned is that we've accomplished so much more by private-public partnership and partnership across multiple industry players. I think that what we know is that in order to be able to deliver screening, we absolutely need improvements in new technologies. And I think there's reason for optimism that those are on the horizon. But I think what we also really clearly see is that if we're going to move the needle here, what we really need to do is recognize that screening happens locally. We can have global efforts, we can have global initiatives, and all of us represent, in some respect, a global view or a regional view, but this change happens at the local level, at the grassroots level, and I think within that context, partnership is absolutely essential. Making sure that we've got a combination of those that are developing the innovations along with those who can mobilize at the grassroots effort to really make sure that the infrastructure, the education, the patient engagement is in place in order to make this happen.
All right, we've got another one. I guess this is for Sam. How about initiatives for people to identify their risk factors for cancer through a screening questionnaire? For example, in lung cancer, this might be people 50 years or older with a significant smoking history. Sam?
Yeah, so I think that's a good idea. I think, so what we do in our trials, and now actually the UK government have funded some lung screen pilots, and in fact they plan to expand them so that nearly a third of the UK will have some CT screening, we hope, over the coming years. And the way we do that is that we currently sort of contact people at risk. So we're sort of lucky in the UK that everybody is signed up to a general practitioner or primary care doctor, where there is usually quite good data on smoking history. So we can actually find people in those practices at the right ages with a smoking history and contact them and send them sort of questionnaires to fill in to see whether they would achieve a risk that would benefit from CT screening. Of course, the ultimate way of doing that is to have web-based questionnaires that people could log into and fill in their risk factors and see whether they would qualify. The problem in the UK with that would be that there's no way that we could organize that. There's no way we could pay for that at the moment. So that might actually lead to quite a bit of frustration. Those tools are out there. So there are risk scores on the net where you can judge your risk and see whether you would qualify for CT screening. But probably just launching them might actually produce quite a bit of frustration at the moment.
All right, thank you so much for that. I've got a question. Let's put it to Harpal, and Susan, feel free to comment on that too. We've talked a lot today about the impact of the pandemic. Everyone said it would take 10 years to develop a vaccine for COVID-19, but scientists developed several effective vaccines in under 1 year. How do we apply the same urgency to cancer screening? Harpal?
I think it's a really good question and a really good challenge. I think there are many parallels that we can draw. I think that, the urgency, the burning platform, if you like, of COVID drove a level of investment, a level of collaboration, a level of data sharing, all of which are things that we need to apply to, frankly, the bigger problem of cancer. But it's about creating that sense of a burning platform that enables us to make that sort of urgent progress. I think it is important, to reflect that yes, new vaccines were developed and launched within a year, but they built on decades of prior research. It's not as if any of those programs started from scratch. And I think it is just important to remember that. But nevertheless, the point is a valid one, which is we moved very quickly. And I think that's, when I talked earlier about drawing some lessons from COVID, drawing some lessons from the pandemic, it's those sorts of lessons that we really need to drive. And I think, I'm certainly seeing in a number of countries, not just the UK, I'm certainly seeing a greater willingness to move more quickly, to think about collaboration, to think about how we use data and so on. It's not at the level of the sort of the pandemic learning platform, but I hope nonetheless that we can shift the system to move more quickly and implement things like this.
Susan?
Yeah, I mean, just to add a comment on that, I do think the illustration of the ability to collaborate, something that Dave was talking about before, to speed up the way in which we can make these decisions has definitely changed the landscape. I also think, frankly, the entire population understands more about testing now than they did 18 months ago. I didn't imagine that most of the population would understand what PCR was, but people are familiar with different testing formats and the pros and cons of different tests and which ones can be better than others. Those kinds of debates are incredibly useful for increasing the education level about what testing might be for other things, including for cancer. So I think that enhanced collaborative platform across different parts of the industry and across industry to government, and the understanding and awareness of the opportunity for testing, plus the technological background improvements that are happening, mean that we, I think, are coming to a tipping point where it ought to be possible to make this happen. And I think that's why we're having this debate now about helping to drive that tipping point forward and work to make this a reality, because I really think it's within our hands to do so.
I think we've got time for a final question, and maybe Ebba and Denis, you can briefly comment on it. There has been renewed interest and energy now that we've seen what can happen when the world's scientific energy is focused on a disease. Where is money most effectively spent to make sure that we can catch cancer earlier in more people? Ebba?
In prevention and early detection and screening, of course. Optimizing the existing programs, making sure that we make use of already established technologies with artificial intelligence to help out in the screening, because we all lack the diagnostic capacity, or in many countries. So there is a lot to actually take advantage of the technologies. And I like the idea that was mentioned also here before, that let's also start more from iterating, be a bit more innovative in our ways of working, and go forward where we know what works, and then fine-tune along the way. So I think we have a good momentum and in that way going forward.
Denis?
Yeah, I mean, I think a focus should be put on more improved public-private collaboration and cooperation, because the private sector has developed all these great innovations. The question is, as will be heard in ESMO and as has been heard in ASCO, the question is how to bring this innovation truly into healthcare systems. Yeah. And all this science has been developed, and it's being more developed as we go forward. And the question is, the public healthcare systems are going to fall more and more behind. And the question is, how can this be speeded up, and how can reimbursement be given to highlight the value that these diagnostics tools bring to healthcare systems? And this needs to be more political will. As Susan highlighted, people are aware on testing now, so this is a huge issue. The question is, how can this be rolled out in society? So improved public-private collaboration, which is really private sector collaboration with the public healthcare systems, has been done with Genomics England, is a key example in the personalized medicine sphere.
I think also both in Sweden and many other countries, we see now more of an excitement working together across cancer mission initiatives. So I think leveraging on that, of course, to find these collaborations, but also to invest much more between the countries in the resources needed to develop.
Carolyn, if I could jump in just for a brief moment, I think that this point that Denis raises about value is so key. And I guess the way that I would like to look at it, and I think the way that we've begun to look at it, is we know that the best outcomes for cancer patients come when we're able to diagnose and treat early. And If we can deliver a cure, it is clear that that is something that society values. It is also clear that that delivers value on an economic basis. It helps to contribute to healthcare system sustainability, which we know is so important. And so the value proposition for driving early screening in the right patients is something that really, I think we need to feel confident in, and is such an important part within this, because that's the way that we're going to actually make sure that we're able to drive forward with all of the advances and get them equitably to the patients who can benefit from it that we've described.
Dave, that was a perfect wrap up, perfect call to action. Want to thank everyone involved, the attendees, the teams that have put this event together, AstraZeneca, EAPM. Thank you so much for hosting this event. And of course, above all, the speakers, I want to thank you for your valuable insights. My name is Carolyn Roth. Have a great day, a productive ESMO, and above all, stay healthy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.